Testing, 1, 2, 3, check. Audio check, 1, 2, 3, testing. Check, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Hello again, everybody. I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you're here today. We're doing another kind of special painting today that I haven't tried before, but it is an oil painting. It's going to be on our 11 by 14 canvas. Today I've actually gessoed the canvas with black gesso, and we're going to be painting a tiger lily, and it's one of those paintings or photos. It's from that Facebook page called Photos for Artists. And the photographer is Sai Nakatogawa, Japanese photographer, and he has some very beautiful work. If you haven't looked at that Facebook page, take a look at it sometime and just see what kind of photos are out there, because they're all free for artists to use and artists to paint from and use, and there's no copyright infringement or no restrictions at all. So anyway, we're going to do that. It's a little bit unique painting today because it's on a black canvas, black gesso. I want to go over and show you what I did with the photograph, and I'll be right back, and we'll go through the paints and the brushes and get started on this. So hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm here at my computer now, and I want to show you the original photo that we started with very striking photo of this tiger lily by Saeed Nagatagawa, and try to say that 3 times real fast. So it was a little bit out of the aspect ratio that I like to paint with. It fits my canvas size of 11 by 14. So I cropped it slightly, and it didn't change it much. It just took a little bit off the sides, but we're still painting it in a portrait format instead of landscape. And so there you see the cropped version. And I also have a grid version that I put my 4 by 5 grid over. And that's a good way to get a painting like this on canvas. It can help you get the petals in the right place and sort of trace it in the right areas. And so I do that, and then I also have my sketch that I also always show you. The sketch and the original photo are on my website. There's links below, and you can go out there and pick those up if you haven't already, and use those for your reference when you try to do this painting. Okay, I think that's all I want to talk about right now. I did do a couple of samples of this, and I tried it a couple different ways on this black gesso. These are smaller painting. Okay, here we are. I'm back at my easel now, and we're going to go through the paints and brushes. I have a fairly limited palette here today, as you can see. I have the black gesso that I use to paint the canvas with to start with, so that's been on the canvas for a while. Then I do my sketch using my my white Seurat transfer paper from a sketch that I created. I can also do it on using a pencil, like a white charcoal pencil, they're called, from General. That's also another way to get a sketch on a darker canvas. Then the thing that you see here now, which let me show it to you right now. This is the painting we're going to start with. I've actually used some white gesso and filled in the silhouette of this painting on the canvas so that it's going to come out better, because I tried it with one of my samples, and just putting it over black, it really, the colors are reasonably transparent, and they actually they don't come out nearly as bright as if you put them on white gesso. So what I've done is I've put the Bob Ross white gesso and just filled in the areas of the petals of the photo here, of the flower. All right, and so my paints today, I'm going to use a little bit of Winsor Newton Liquin, which helps the paint dry a little faster. Most of the time liquid clear or liquid white will slow the drying process down. It takes a long time, as I talked about a minute ago with that liquid clear. But we're using a limited palette, but we are using Bob Ross soft oil colors here for the most part. 3 of the 4 are Bob Ross soft oil colors. I'm using titanium white, cadmium yellow light, sap green, and then to get the reddish orange color, I'm using a Grumbacher cadmium barium red light. So Bob Ross didn't quite have that color in their floral palette. So those are what we're using for the paints, 4 of them. Brushes, I'm using 2 brushes that I have from Bob Ross set. These are the floral brushes that Annette Kowalski had actually invented when they started painting florals. One's a filbert, one's a flat, and then I have my script liner. So those are primarily the 3 brushes that I'll use. If I need any other brushes, I do have my set of Trekell brushes here that I really love. These are good replacements for the Bob Ross brushes. If you can't get them, go out to Trekell.com, Trekell.com. These brushes are great. I do actually have a little discount. If you want to take the link off my website, you can go out there and get a little bit of a discount if you want to buy those, but that's my only commercial. One more way you can paint this painting if you don't want to use this white gesso, there's a product by Winsor Newton. It's called Underpainting White, and it's a fast drying white paint. So you have the liquid white you can put under your painting if you want it to dry long and slow. If you want it to dry fast, this Underpainting White is a good product for that. I don't use it too often. I've used it a few times, but it is certainly not odor free, so you will have to deal with some of the odors of this paint if you use it. So I wanted to tell you that because that's a nice little tip that you might not know about. But so I think that's all I want to say now. I told you about my Liquin. I use regular white gesso here for this. So let me get my camera lined up and get zoomed in here so you can see everything. Get it on the canvas, move it over a little bit like this, and then put my palette on here. All right, for our live audience. I re-edit these videos, folks, so if I miss out on having the palette in the right place at the right time, I'll usually fix that on the final editing. But okay, so we've got a dry, completely dry canvas. This white gesso is dry, nothing wet on here right now at all. So we're going to start. If I need some something to help the paint flow a little better, I will use my Liquin that will help the paint flow. It also helps it dry a little faster. So we have some really bright colors in here. Before I start, I just want to mention a little shout out to some painters that I spent 3 days with over this past weekend. As you know, I don't paint acrylics, but I did take a workshop this weekend with a wonderful acrylics painter. His name is Stephen Coury, K-O-U-R-Y. He does some wonderful wildlife painting, and he has a whole group of people that take workshops off of him right here in Lakeland, Florida, and he does a wonderful job. He has a great following, and he's got some, I don't know, his paintings have been sold to some pretty famous people, I understand, and but he's a very realistic, photorealistic painter. So I learned a lot this weekend about whether you paint in oils or acrylics or whatever, how to really look at a photograph and pick out the nuances in a photo if you're trying to get more realism in your photos. So I want to say a shout out. Some of them might be watching today. I don't know. I gave them my business card and told them I was going to be painting oil today. So I know they're acrylic painters, they're realistic painters, and this is not going to be a total realistic painting job for sure, but I probably am going to spend more time looking at the photo here as a result of taking this workshop this past weekend. And I'll be trying to explain to you how we get some three-dimensional effects in this, because you have to do three-dimensional effects no matter what you're painting. So, all right, so let's get going here. I'm going to pick up a little of this Liquin and put it here just to get some nice soft colors. I'm going to start again like we do normally on a landscape painting. We always paint back to front, and so I'm going to start with this and start painting as far back as we can. These particular petals are not all that far away, but they are they do have curvature to them, so we want to try to show that in this particular style of painting here, in this particular scene. Photograph really is striking when you see it on this black background, and so I really appreciate the photographer who's made this photo available to artists to paint from. Also, by the way, if you want to talk to me, I do have another computer up here by my elbow that I can see the chat window, so if you want to talk to me and ask me questions or make a comment, suggestion, please do so. And I'll try to remember to watch the window here on my left side and hopefully give you a good answer, if I know the answer. Okay, so here we go. This is one of the petals. So one of the things you notice from the photograph to the painting here, because we put that white gesso on, it's just the same issue you have when you use liquid white. When you use the Bob Ross painting method, you end up with losing any image or sketch or anything that you had. So you're basically painting true alla prima here without having any kind of a sketch or anything to work from. So I'm going to just kind of leave this like this now. We're going to come back and do some more. I'm still going to do wet and wet, but I just don't have any underpainting here that makes it soft and blending. These paints, by the way, are the Bob Ross called soft oil colors, which means I think they're more creamy. They flow together better. It kind of eliminates some of the need for the liquid white that you'd be using to get the paint to flow on the canvas. So this painting may not take us a long time today. I don't know. I'm going to probably spend a little more time doing some detail work to try to bring out some of the three-dimensional effects of these petals and some of the detail in the flower, more than I might otherwise would have if I had not had the chance to go to this Stephen Corey workshop. I hope some of those folks are watching today. I don't know if they are. If they are, please put a note in the chat window and let us know if you're here and you were at the workshop I attended this past weekend. I told you that the sketches and the reference photos are on my website. There's a link for that and a link for each of the images. So you should be able to get those without any trouble. See how fast this goes? It's because we're not covering the whole canvas. We've already got most of the canvas covered with black gesso. And now to get the glossy finish that I want in the final product here, I will probably let this paint dry completely, and then after a period of time, sometimes a month or 2 months, I'll come back and put some Damar varnish on it and get that nice glossy look that I like, because it really makes these petals and this whole flower just explode off the canvas. All right, so few paints, 4 paints, counting white. I'm not even much looking at the photograph right now. I'm just kind of getting these colors in and getting some of this tone on here, and I'll come back and highlight it and put shadows in where I can, if I think of it. So I'm thinking this may not be a long painting exercise today. Hope you're hearing me okay. I was testing my microphone earlier and it looked like it was working, but since I turn off all my speakers, I don't have this sound coming back at me, so I don't know for sure what you're hearing, but I hope you're hearing good sound. Okay. I don't do many florals. I probably do maybe 1 or 2 a year, I would guess. So I'm always kind of trying to learn, trying to try new things. This whole idea of getting this photograph on black with a black background was one that intrigued me, of how to do that with and still kind of use some of the Bob Ross technique, some of the wet on wet technique, and to be able to do it in a short period of time while you're watching me. So I'm using this filbert. It's this number 12 Bob Ross floral filbert, and they don't have, they're not hard bristle brushes. They're soft bristle, probably not even bristle. They're probably some sort of a synthetic product that makes them blend the paint much softer, makes them much easier on the edges and that sort of thing. So, okay. We have 6 petals here and 5 or 6 little leaves on the side and a stem, so it's shouldn't be a lengthy painting. Shouldn't take a long time to do. As you know, some of my paintings are over an hour long. And I know that can get to be boring. I hate to bore people, but I don't want to leave you with a half-finished painting, and I don't want to constantly run fast time-lapse videos or speeded up videos so you can't hear the discussion or the talking that I'm doing and explanation of what I'm doing. So and if you're not able to watch this whole thing while we're painting, you can always tune in a few days. I'll have this video edited, a new video put out on YouTube with the final edits. I usually don't take much of anything out of the video. I just let it speak for itself, and I only if there's some area that is really goofy in the live broadcast will I try to edit some of it out, but usually I give you everything that was in the live broadcast right here. So this is covering nicely over that white gesso, and it's making it very easy to cover. The paint, even though this paint might be a little bit transparent in some areas, it's the white underpainting is not hurting it. It still shows pretty well. All right, I'm going to put a few more markers here to show me where I am in some of these. These little dark streaks I'm putting in, these are actually indentations in the flower itself. And so when you are trying to make something look three-dimensional, you want to have these shadow areas and highlight areas so that it gives the three-dimensional look. Just by putting that little bit in there, you can see that the lighter color comes forward, the darker color goes back. It gives you the impression that we have some indentation in this flower. And we do. That's exactly what you try to make happen here with I haven't changed brushes. I haven't washed out my brush. I've just been mixing this Cad Yellow and this Barium Red by Grumbacher to get these bright colors. So I hope it's looking good on your TV, on your video screen. I think that's a good base to start from right there. Now there's a lot of green. There's some green in the center here, that where the stem kind of comes through and sticks up. So I think I'm going to get my other little filbert here. This is my Trekell filbert. It's got almost, it is a more bristly type of brush, but it has a, I think it's called synthetic, I forget the type of animal they're trying to synthesize here, but it's certain kind of fur from an animal that I used to remember what that was. I can't think of it right now, so if I think of it in a minute, I'll tell you. But let's go in here and see what we can do in terms of putting some of these greens in here. When I put it in, I pick up the orange, so I have to clean my brush off, get more paint. I'm using this paint almost exclusively right out of the tube. I'm not mixing it with hardly anything. The sap green anyway, for sure. Might put a little white in it in some areas where it's lighter. Like right in here, there's sort of a light section like that. A lot of dark in here. Sort of bleeds up into the flower petal itself as well, now that I'm more attuned to looking at the photograph in a much more detailed sort of way. I don't know if I'm ever going to be a realistic painter for sure, but I sure had fun in this workshop and trying it, even though it was acrylics. I'd never painted with acrylics before. I never painted with the paints we were using, or the brushes, or the technique. So I was like a new kid learning how to paint. So you may want to look that artist up. Just look at some of his work. Stephen Koury, K-O-U-R-Y. Putting on almost pure titanium white here, or titanium, not titanium, cadmium yellow. The other thing I'm trying to do is make the brush go the way the surface of these flower petals go. Like that. You see the brush stroke there. It helps tell the viewer what he's looking at. Do the same thing on landscapes on the ground, on the grass. If you've ever followed Bob Ross, you know he says you make it paint the way the land flows, or the way the land lays. Well, if you're painting a flower, you want to paint the way the petal flows, or the way the petal lies. So the same idea carries over here. All right. Let's see here. I'll get a little more of this orangey color. Go up here and see if I can. This looks pretty decent here, I think. Pretty close. I'll try this out here. This area out here is actually bent over. It's a sort of a pull it up this way. The petal is sort of bent over. And then as it pulls up, start getting this yellow mixed in with it. It helps give you those streaks. Oh, this is really yellow on this side. Like that. See, the light is, most of it looks like it's coming from the left here because I have really bright highlights on the top and left side. So trying to do that is kind of counterintuitive to make this side so bright, but this side is actually that's the color of the petal itself. It has this mixture of orange and yellows in it. So hopefully that's coming across to you pretty well on your channel. All right, some more yellows here. Let's go in and keep this. I have one filbert with primarily yellow paint in it, and I have the other one with primarily orange, reddish orange. But because we're doing wet and wet, we're picking up the paint underneath, right? And it gets on the brush, so you got to continue to wipe once you've got that first layer down. You have to continue to wipe your brush before you go back into it again, otherwise you pollute the yellow or the color that you're trying to put on because it picks up that color underneath. Okay, let's look at this. I'm going to put some white on here now. See if I can hit up some of this color in here like this. Blend it, softly blend it. Lighten it up just a little. And put some really light white in there. Up here on the top, there's just a little white dab up there. There's a slight white streak coming down here like this. Maybe I can fix that a little better. Didn't like it. Took the paint right off my brush and lost it. There's a little bit of that. Okay, so I've got stems and the stamens to put in. Over here on the left side, this petal here has some very bright white highlights right there. I didn't pick up enough paint to get the highlight for you. Looks bright on the monitor back here, but on the canvas itself it's not bright enough. There we go, that's better. See, when I do that, I still get this orange on the bottom of the brush, so you have to be very diligent about cleaning your brush almost after every brush stroke. Okay, now the yellow, there's some more yellow in here in the middle of this petal. I'm working on this petal now. In this area here we got some yellow that seems to lighten that up. More yellow down here like that. Some yellow coming up that way. In there. Okay. I don't know if any of you folks are interested in acrylics or not. I don't have any on my channel. I've never done an acrylic painting on my channel, but it's something that I've given some thought to just to see if there's more people that might want to watch my channel for some acrylic painting. So I may try some acrylics here if you guys are interested. Let me know in the notes below if you like the idea of acrylics, or you want me to stick with oil and watercolor, or do you have a preference, or do you just like to watch paints about any kind? I watch all kind of artists paint. I subscribe to North Lights TV series and get new videos every week. So I just try to learn as much as I can and keep learning. Now this has got to sort of blend into that there like that. Yeah. So that, there's a little more yellow over here. See the brush strokes, how the brush strokes help make that look rounded. It gives it some depth. And it's all by just putting on the brush strokes the right way. Okay, now let's go work on this petal over here on the right. some yellow in there. Bright yellow down there. There, like that. And sort of blend it here into this. Okay, more yellow in the bottom here. I'm not getting any chatting. Are you guys talking to me? I haven't seen anybody post anything up here unless I'm missing it. Got some yellow there. I want to put some, well, I got this yellow in my brush. I'm going to come down here and put another swoop down here like that. Get another one here in the middle. That. I'm just putting this in as a base, and I'm going to come back and feather that out a little more. Okay, it starts like that, and I'll be able to blend that together much more now. Take the paint out of my brush and just sort of feather it in over here so that it blends. It's probably not enough blending. Let's put a little more on there. It's really dark orange out here on the right side. Curves down, under. It's really bright down here. I'm going to pull that up like that. See the darker value here on this orange, reddish orange, is telling you this is a little bit out of the light. So it's giving you that roundedness of that petal. And you make that roundedness with the shadows and highlights. Okay, let's try this little guy, see if I can feather him in a little more. So the highlight brings the petal up, the darker value takes it down. So you should be able to see almost like ripples in there is what I'm trying to emulate as much as possible. And we've got another dark layer right in here. It's not that orange, it should be a little lighter. Like right in here, let's lighten it up just a little. Because the darkest orange is like right under here. It's almost a shadow of this petal right there. It does just make a interesting little shadow, and then it blends softly with all of this. So we got shadows. There's another shadow here. I'm probably paying more attention to this photograph than I ever have. Particularly when you're doing a flower where you're really trying to make it look like that flower, you'll want to pay attention to these details a lot more than I typically do. This is really nicely rounded down here. Pull it up just a little bit more. See, those subtle brush strokes just make all the difference in the world. Look back up here, I think. See, that's a shadow around here. So let's see if we can fix that with a little bit more yellow in it. See if we can make it a little more rounded. It's almost too sharp right there, some of that. And this is really bright yellow out here. This. There's There's a dark orange here that looks like it's part of the shadow of this other petal. Okay, so let's go get some of that. Put it right in here. It's like right in here, really dark. So that's this petal below that's actually being shadowed by the one above it. And the one above it, I don't have enough yellow in it right in here, so I'm going to lighten it up a little bit, like right in here. There we go, something like this. Okay. I notice I have to hit my canvas out here with my finger. There's some yellow paint out there. All right, we're getting there. Not too much left to do. I want to do some more details on these stamens, they're called. All right, highlight there. This is there. Okay. All right. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to leave that go, I think. This other, up here, I'm going to pull down some of this yellow and sort of blend that. I had some pretty hard edges in there that I prefer not to have. So you see that wet on wet makes that blend together much better. All right. How about some green in these leaves? All right, we'll put some green in, put some dark in, and we'll come back and put some lighter green over it. Actually, this is a good case for a kind of a double-loaded brush. Where you have a light on top and dark below it. There we go. Something like that. So got a lot of green in here. I'll just put that in first and come back with another layer on top of that. So this may be my only floral for the year, I don't know. Kind of try to do them every so often just to make me do them. Take a little lighter color here and put on the top. There we go. Almost looks like an ear of corn. Better fix that. Still using this same filbert brush. I've really only used one style of brush here. Two different brushes, but it's the same idea. Okay, let's paint this bottom area here on this one. Back and put a little bit more there. Lighten it up just a little with some white, titanium white. Lighten it up with a little white. Now these leaves are almost, can't even see them hardly in a photograph. They're basically darkened out because of the way the camera took the photo. But if I were doing a still life and these things were sitting here in the studio, I would certainly see these colors and these marks to make it look like they're real petals. They're not just black, dark green blobs on hanging off the side. You have to think about that when you try to use a photo. Unless you're doing total realistic painting, then you have to have a very good photo that is your reference. This is a good photo, but it's designed for sort of dramatic effect, I think, with the black box or whatever he's taking this photo in. All right, so the bottom side, the right side should be darker probably because the light is coming from the upper left. So I'll try to put more dark tones in here. Right side of the stem should be probably darker, and the bottom side of these should be darker. Like that. There we go, something like this. And the underside of this one should be darker. This is almost pure paint right out of the tube, other than the little orange mixing I did. All right, time for some stamens in the middle. And we've been going about 40 minutes. We're going to be done here shortly. Let me see if I can get some, I don't have a brown color on here, right? How are we going to make brown? Anybody got any ideas? It's the only colors we got to work with. What if we mix this sap green over here, and how about a little of this reddish orange? Should get a brown, right? According to the color wheel. If you can see that, it's not totally turning brown, but it's getting, that's probably got too much orange paint in there, so let's pick up some more sap green and throw it on there. Yeah, it's getting brown. Red and green should make a brown color. So I just want it to be, I want it to be runny enough with that, with our thinner here that I put on the palette, to let it lie on top of the rest of these. So where are these things? There's one like right in here, like that. There's kind of a partial one beside it, like right there. These darkest brown ones are kind of like in here. And there's a big one over here sticking out somewhere, like right around in here somewhere. And there's some that are probably a little redder, maybe, that are right in this area here. I think there's 3 of them. Pick a little more orange in it, put it up here, like this. One up here like that. Okay, so I'm not trying to make these perfect. I do want to lighten up those stems a little bit. I want you to see them, but I don't want them to be overpowering and like overtake everything. Get some more brown in there. So they're just little stems that sort of hold these things up. They're even lighter in some cases, or more white even. And over here it's something like that, holds it up. All right, we do have some dots. That I think this is where the tiger lily gets its name from. These little spotted things around here. Put some around different places. Random spots like that. A couple little things in here like that. So we're just kind of filling out the rest of this, making it look like it's a completed flower. How much more do I need to do to that? I think this white up here might be a little bit too striking. Let's see if I can tone it down just a tad. I want to put some yellow underneath it. I think that's the secret here. Blend that together. All right, that's a little better, I believe. Okay. Thank you, Lindy. You made it. Well, this is a fast painting, Lindy, and glad you got to tune in. It will be available online for several hours, and then I take the video files and do edit them and put another version out for you after this. So in a few days there'll be another version out on my YouTube channel. So if you miss part of it, it's all going to be there. That's my plan anyway, unless I mess up my video files and lose them. I've had some interesting cases where I didn't have my microphone turned on, and trying to do all this stuff is really a bit of a fun challenge. All right, I think I'm about ready to quit here on this. Like I said, it's going to be a fast painting, and I've tried to be this. My love of crafts. Well, thank you. Looking so beautiful. Thanks for your compliment. I probably could spend a little more time on it, but I think it's we've been going a little less than 45 minutes, I think, on this. So, so what I'll do is I'm going to let this dry completely, and then this dark black gesso that's on here, I'm going to varnish it with Damar varnish, and that will bring it to life with the glistening paint. It'll just really pull this thing right out of the canvas, if you will. I've got a little bit of a light white sticking under here. I'm gonna try to paint that out. Okay. Lindy, what does load shedding mean in South Africa? What does that mean? What are you doing? Is that like harvesting? Thanks, Lindy. Thanks, everyone who's watching. I really appreciate you being here. The colors, this is a limited palette, by the way. You notice I only have cadmium yellow and sap green, titanium white. I have this Grumbacher color called cadmium barium red light, which makes the reddish orange color. I didn't see a color in the Bob Ross sets like that, so I just use that one because it's so bold and striking. Pretty well finished. There might be another little tip down here I can put in, maybe. Start looking at that. The paints I'm using, in case you didn't get here earlier, are Bob Ross paints. They're the Bob Ross floral paints. He has a set of floral paints that are probably softer and blend easier than his traditional paints, so that's what I'm using today. I'm using also some Bob Ross brushes. Lindy, they turn off the power ever so often. At the moment, it's stage 4. Wow. So you didn't have any power to even turn your computer on or watch anything, it sounds like, huh? That's what load shedding. Oh, that's load shedding. You're shedding the load of electrical off the electrical grid, I guess. Well, they just shut it down in South Africa, huh? That's very interesting. Stage 4, quite severe. Is that because of the heat? Probably would be. You're in your summertime there in South Africa, I'm sure, right? Okay, folks. Power off for 2.5 hours this afternoon, 2.5 hours, and tonight for 2.5 hours. Wow, that is remarkable, Lindy. I'm so happy you took the time to tune in, even though you're losing power all day long. That's amazing. All right, I think I'm going to put my signature on this little job, and we'll call this one finished for now. Hope you give it a try. All of the reference photos are out on my website. You can download them, and let's see if I can get my signature a decent color here that is not too bright. So I'm going to just put my signature right in here, hopefully. And a little bit more of that. Okay. Oh wow, Lindy, that's sad to hear that. Okay, folks, I think I'm going to call this off and say we've been going about 50 minutes plus my explanation on the computer. So give this a try if you want to, and get the photos and images from my website, and let me know how you do. Check out my Facebook page, check out my website, and try this. And check out this photographer from Photos for Artists group. His name is Sei, S-E-I, Nakatugawa, N-A-K-A-T-U-G-A-W-A, Nakatugawa. So he has, every one of his photos are this dramatic. They're on black background, striking light, striking shadows, and lights and darks. So I really encourage you, if you're looking for floral paintings to paint. Almost all of his photos I've seen are of a single flower or just a few flowers in this black background. So that's what caught my eye, and that's why I wanted to try it. So I'm glad you're here today, and I'll see you next month for oil painting. I'll see you next week for watercolor painting. That's my plan. And please check out my site. Put me some comments on this video if you like it. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you think about acrylics. I did talk a little bit about that for those of you who didn't get here in the beginning. I'm not planning to do any acrylic paintings right now on my channel, but since I've had this wonderful workshop with Steve and Corey, I'm kind of more interested in acrylics than I have been ever. And I'm also more interested in doing more detail looking into the photograph and trying to get representative lights and darks and shadows and highlights that make these things look a little more realistic and a little more three-dimensional. So anyway, that's my story for today, and I'm really glad you're here. So until I see you next time, please tune in next time. This is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now, and goodbye. Zoom in on this a little bit. There you go, folks. Okay.